Resizing a graphic. So of course I can resize my graphic, that's what's in my frame, by utilizing my direct selection tool and clicking. So when I click, I see that bounding box around where my graphic, actually the real size of my graphic, and I'm able to either drag the handles. Now if I do this though, I start distorting my graphic, which is really the wrong thing to do. I can use my transform panel here and change a percentage. I can use my control panel up at the top and again change some settings here, specifically a percentage. Or I could go to my object menu and to transform, and again I could change some percentages here with the scale. So there are many ways that I can resize a graphic. When I resize a graphic, the inside, remember I double check that I'm the inside content by the little plus sign. When I do resize that, my frame does not change. So this does not affect the size of the graphic frame. To just move a graphic, again I can click and drag like I have been doing, or I can use my arrow keys on my keypad or my keyboard to allow a small 1 pixel adjustment. Now, what's probably a better way of trying to resize things if it's not quite the way you want it is the fitting commands. So InDesign offers these options for positioning and resizing a graphic in a frame. And it can be a little confusing, and it's really easy to sort of mix up these options. So to get to these options, I can do one of two things. I can go under my object menu and look for fitting. So here I can fill the frame proportionally, fill the content proportionally. Those two, with the first one filling the frame proportionally as your best option, and probably the one that you're going to use the most. So the other options, fill frame to content, fit frame or fit content to frame, center content, all of those are other, depending on what you want to do. Now I can also get to that menu by right-clicking with my graphic being selected and choose fitting. It's the same thing. So the right-click method might be a little bit easier. Now to note, the fill frame proportionally, like I said, is used the most, and it resizes to fit the frame. Okay, but what happens is it doesn't stretch it, and it doesn't leave any empty areas if they're not in the same ratio, if the graphic and the frame are not in the same ratio. So some of the graphic might not be visible if it exceeds the size of the frame, but it doesn't do any weird distortions. Now in this case, this photo is a horizontal photo. My box here is very vertical, so I'm going to run out. I'm not going to be able to fit it all in. If I do one of these other effects, fitting, fit the content proportionally, now you see I get these white areas outside of my box because in order for it to fit horizontal, it's not going to fit vertical. Let me just show you what these others. So if I fit the frame to content, what that just did is it resized my frame to fit the content. If I have a strict guideline on my size of my frame, that's not going to work. I did a Control Z to undo. Let's do the next option, fit the content to frame. This will skew it. This will distort it. This never should be done. You never want to stretch pixels, stretch pictures, stretch people's faces. It is kind of rule number one of the absolute things, the worst things you could do. Okay? So these fitting options, like I said, your best option is the most used option is going to be fill the frame proportionally. Okay. And then I can adjust things. One other piece, and I'm going to do a little bit of switcheroo here. I'm going to turn my transform panel, click that off, and I'm going to turn on some text in the background, turn off this specific frame actually. So what I want to do here is play around with the way that some items fit with text. So this is called text wrap or wrapping text. So I am going to get rid of some things here, and I want to